Hi, friend. How are you? Good, good, good. You know what? You're having trouble sleeping? Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. You know what I thought? Since it's December 1st, it's officially the holiday season, I thought that I could read you a Christmas book. Yeah, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And then that way, I'll read it to you. You can settle down. You can go to maybe fall asleep. Yeah. Okay, so I want you to do me a favor. I want you to just go ahead and close your eyes. Okay, yeah, get ready to close your eyes and I'll read you the book. Okay, and hopefully you fall asleep. Okay, so now that your eyes are closed, I have a nice blanket. Let me just cover you up, tuck you in. Tuck, 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 tuck. Okay, and let me get started with the book. Yep, nope, keep your eyes closed and just listen to the sound of my voice. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but that Grinch, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be that his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be perhaps that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was two sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Who's, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings, he snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here. Then he growled with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find a way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and Who boys will wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then all the noise, noise. That's one thing he hated, the noise. And then the Who's, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. They would feast on Who's pudding and rare Who roast beef, which is something the Grinch could not stand the least. And then they did something he'd like least of all. Every Who done in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They would stand hand in hand, and the Who's would start singing. They'd sing and they'd sing, and they'd sing. And the more the Grinch thought of the Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I put up with it now. I must stop Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I just know what to do, the Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat, and he chuckled and clucked, what a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. And all that I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around. But since reindeer are scarce, there are none to be found. Did that stop old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max, and he took a red thread, and he tied a big horn on top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks, and on a ramshackle sleigh he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said get up, and the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Who's lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air, and all the Who's were dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to his first little house in the square, this is stop number one, the old Grinchy Claus hissed, and he climbed off the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch, but if Santa can do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck out his head of the fireplace flue, where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first thing to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant. Around every room he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums. checkerboard, tricycles, popcorn, and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch simply nimbled, stuffed all of the bags, one by one, up the chimney. Then he sunk, then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who feast, he took the Who pudding, he took the roast beast. He cleaned out the icebox, and quick as a flash, wow, that Grinch even took the last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee, and now, the Grinch said, I'll stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and started to shove, when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a small Who, little Cindy Lou Who was no more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why? But you know that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why, my sweet little tot, the fake Santa Claus lied. There is a light on this tree that won't light on one side, so I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, and I'll bring it back here. And his fib fooled the child, then he patted her head, and he got her a drink, and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou Who went to bed with her cup, he went up the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was a log for the fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On the walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire, and the only speck of food he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs too small for all the other Who mouses. It was 1/4 past dawn, all the Who's still in bed, all the Who's still asnooze. Then he packed up his sled. He packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, the tinsel, the trimmings, and the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet, he rode with his load to tiptoe to dump it. Pooh, to the Who's, he was grinchiously humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open for a moment or two. Then the Who's down in Whoville will all cry, boo hoo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It was low, and then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Well, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes, then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came just the same. Somehow or another, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinchy feet ice in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from the store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a little bit more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say, the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with a load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys, the food for the feast, and he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beef.